What would you do if your darkest wishes came true in the most twisted way possible? Imagine you write something as simple as, "I want to be happier this year." But something in the universe takes those words literally, and what happens next is so terrifying you wish you had never made that wish. That's exactly what happened to a group of friends who, on a cold December night, discovered an ancient book in which New Year's resolutions not only came true, but came true in a horrifying and nightmarish way. The story of how it all began is not your typical group of friends getting together for a celebration. There were just 6 of them, the closest group in college, ready to spend another New Year's Eve together, just like they did every year. The tradition was simple. On the last night of the year, each person would write their resolutions on a piece of paper, burn it, and the next day, they would wait to see how their wishes would come true. But that night would be different from all the others. It all started when Emily, one of the girls in the group, found an old book in an antique shop, covered in dust, with a worn-out cover and symbols she couldn't quite recognize. She didn't think twice about it. She bought it on impulse. The book had a mystical air to it, almost as if it were calling to her. And so it was that, at midnight, her friends began to write their resolutions on the yellowed pages of the mysterious volume. It was something they did every year, but something about the atmosphere that night felt different, almost tense. Every word written seemed to feel heavier, as if the simple act of writing down those resolutions held more weight than the wishes themselves. Emily was the first to write, "This year I want to be happier. I want to be successful in my career, and be surrounded by people who appreciate me." No one thought much of it, and the rest of the night was filled with laughter and jokes. However, the next morning, when they woke up, they began to notice strange things. Emily was the first to experience something terrifying. At her job, a great opportunity appeared before her, a promotion she had been waiting for her entire life. But not everything was as it seemed. The offer came with a trap, a condition she couldn't refuse. They asked her to sign a contract without reading it, promising her everything she had dreamed of. But as soon as she signed it, something inside her changed. Emily began to feel like a mere pawn in a game she didn't fully understand, and soon, the people around her began to seem distant, manipulative, almost as if they weren't human. The happiness she had wished for became a gilded cage, and soon she realized her co-workers were not just indifferent to her, but somehow were manipulating her thoughts and actions. It was as if someone were playing with her mind, leading her down a path with no exit. Then it was Michael's turn, who wrote a simple wish, perhaps the most innocent of them all. "This year I want to find true love, someone to share my life with." At first, everything seemed fine. He met a girl named Sophie, who seemed like the perfect woman. Everything progressed quickly, as if destiny itself were pushing them together. However, Michael soon began to notice something strange about Sophie. She seemed to know his every thought before he even spoke them aloud, and their conversations grew more intense than any relationship he had been in. Somehow, Sophie was controlling him without him realizing it. The closer he got to her, the more he felt like he was losing control of his own thoughts. Michael started to suspect that something wasn't right, and the darkness overtook his mind when he realized that Sophie could not only read his thoughts, but she could manipulate them. Everything he had wished for, a perfect love, became an obsessive and disturbing nightmare. The relationship turned possessive and dangerous, until one dark night, Michael woke up to find Sophie had disappeared without a trace. The only thing left was a note, written in blood, saying, "You will have me forever, whether you want it or not." Things got worse when it was Sarah's turn, the most skeptical of the group, who never believed in superstitions. Sarah wrote something simple, something that seemed harmless. "This year, I want to learn to trust people." A nearly naive wish. But what happened was something she could have never imagined. Sarah began trusting people around her more than usual, to the point where she allowed someone to deceive her. A man she met online quickly gained her trust, and soon asked her to do something terrible, give him personal information in exchange for money. In her mind, the fact that this person seemed so kind made her believe everything was fine. However, soon after, the truth came to light. This man's friendship, was nothing more than an elaborate scheme to manipulate her and steal her identity. Sarah realized she had fallen into a dangerous trap, and when she tried to break free from the connection, something darker took over her. Every time she tried to distance herself, the figure of this man stalked and threatened her, as if the desire to trust others had left her completely vulnerable to the worst horrors. It didn't take long for the others to begin to understand that something wasn't right. Each resolution written in that book seemed to fulfill an intention, but in such a twisted way that all they wanted was to erase everything related to that cursed book. But the problem was, the more they tried to get rid of it, the more it clung to them, not only in their wishes, but in their minds. Even those who hadn't written in the book began to experience strange effects. Ben, who had only observed from afar, felt like his own life was being manipulated by forces he couldn't comprehend. He saw how his surroundings began to change, how the people around him became colder and more distant, as if something invisible was affecting his reality. Friendship, trust, love, everything that once meant something to him began to crumble. But the most terrifying part of all was when they realized that, in fact, their wishes were not only being fulfilled in a perverse manner, but someone or something was still writing in the book even after they closed it. Every day, the empty pages would be filled with new resolutions, as if the book were anticipating their deepest fears and desires. They couldn't escape. So, if you ever find a book that promises to make your wishes come true, think twice before you write in it. What might seem like a simple exercise to start the year off right could end up being an endless nightmare that will haunt you until your very last breath. What would happen if, instead of achieving what you want most, it all comes true in a distorted and dangerous way? Maybe you'll never know, but just in case, be sure you're prepared for what you wish for. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a like and comment what you thought. And if you want to hear more chilling tales like this one, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any videos. I'll see you next time, when the darkness calls us once again.